With Dragon Ball Daima coming to an end, there are tons of questions left in the air. Why does Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3 look different than Goku's? What was the point of the fusion bugs? How did Goku unlock Super Saiyan 4?
ブーがすごかったからな。あの後特訓したんだ。うまくいくかどうか自信なかったけどな。
Oh well, all these questions are pointless anyway. The main question most people, including myself, have is any of this even canon? Well, maybe. Let me elaborate. The Dragon Ball community has been in disarray regarding canonicity since even before Dragon Ball Super, believe it or not. While DBS did bring the question to the forefront, Toriyama not really having much to do with Dragon Ball GT always left a weird pit in people's stomach. At least to my memory anyway. What did I know? I was like 6 when YouTubers would talk about this stuff. That being said, by the time Battle of Gods was released, most people put that topic to bed. Toriyama wrote this movie and not GT. Therefore, GT isn't canon and is just some alternate timeline. Goku doesn't even mention Super Saiyan God. Remember this point for later. But then it happened. The state of canon was thrown into disarray twice more at the exact same time. The anime and manga released for Dragon Ball Super. The two of them would both strive to cover what happened in the movies that released previously, Battle of Gods and Resurrection F. This would either confirm or deny the canonicity of said movies. But the main issue, the thing that actually ruined any chance of continuity between the two pieces of media, is the way that Toriyama wrote them. He gave main story points for both Toei Animation and the manga artist Toyotaro to follow, and they could both fill in the blanks with whatever they wanted. The problem? The confusion it caused, because both sides filled in the blanks completely differently. Goku and Vegeta still have access to Super Saiyan God. Goku has Kaioken stacked on top of Super Saiyan Blue. Goku Black can use Super Saiyan 1. Toppo has some weird God power-up. Roshi can use Ultra Instinct. Not to mention the manga continued beyond the point the anime ended. Most people just say a mixture of things are canon. The conclusion usually being that the anime is canon up until the Tournament of Power, and then the manga is canon for everything afterwards, like Moreau, Granola, etc. You could also use the point that all the shows are different timelines, but I don't really enjoy that explanation either. It's messy for anyone coming into the series. I personally don't think either of these are good ways to go about things, and I'm going to use this video to explain why. If we go by the logic that whatever Toriyama writes is canon, then it should be the DBS manga. Toriyama seemed to have much more impact on that. He read every chapter before it released, even giving slight corrections to certain pieces of work. To my knowledge, from what I can find online, nothing even close to this happened for the anime. He gave them notes, character sheets, and backed off. Whether or not he wrote everything that happened in the manga is up for interpretation, but my main point is that he heavily reviewed all of it. I doubt Toei even bothered to ask him about certain things for the anime, and I can't find anything to prove otherwise. Okay, well, what does this say about the word canon in Dragon Ball? How can we determine what is and isn't canon? Well, the community has come up with certain ways to figure that out over time. Number 1, it has to be written by Toriyama, at least to a certain degree. It can't just be okayed. The more of his involvement, the more canon it is. Number 2, it has to fit in with the pre-established timeline of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z's manga. I think this one is obvious. If it doesn't fit in with Toriyama's original work, then it's just something completely separate. And finally, number 3, if there are obvious retcons to a previous work that ruin the continuity, then one of them isn't canon. Think Goku not mentioning Super Saiyan God, Beerus, or anything in GT, not something like the Potara fusion time limit thing. So where does Daima fit into all of this? Well, let's firstly talk about why Daima's canonicity is even put into question. Before episode 12, it was up in the air. Certain things that were mentioned kind of confused everyone. For example, in Dragon Ball Super, Kibito and Shin defused by using the Namekian Dragon Balls, but in Dragon Ball Daima,
remember when you and Vegeta fused into Vegeta with the Potara earrings? Later on, when you were absorbed by Majin Buu, you split apart again. That's what gave us the idea. Now that we're on better terms with Buu, we just asked him this time.
However, they showed the Supreme Kais of the other universes, a very obvious reference to DBS, to show us that they are in the same timeline. That could have just been considered a one-off retcon, but then this happened. In episode 12, Vegeta turned Super Saiyan 3. This turned everyone upside down. Nobody knew what to think. Obviously, Vegeta doesn't have Super Saiyan 3 in Dragon Ball Super. He doesn't try to use it against Beerus, and it's implied he doesn't care for trying to figure out the form in any capacity. Or does he? No. Whatever cope any of you use to bring some sort of continuity between the shows, it's obvious that Vegeta having Super Saiyan 3 is not in the cards in DBS. But even this wasn't enough to deter people from speculation. Things like, he didn't use it because of the stamina drain, or he mastered Super Saiyan 2 enough to the point where it had more power than Super Saiyan 3, and such. I could argue for days about these, but ultimately, it doesn't matter. We know Daima can't be in the same universe as DBS because of episode 18, the episode where Goku whips out Super Saiyan 4. This confirms it. There is no way Daima and DBS are both canon. So let's take a step back and analyze. Based on my previous rules for canonicity in Dragon Ball, which are these, let's go through each for Daima and Super and give them a scale from 1 to 10. Number 1, it has to be written by Toriyama, at least to a certain degree. It can't just be okay. The more of his involvement, the more canon it is. Well, both series were written by him, but he had much more to do with Daima. He wrote the entire story for it, while Yuko Kakihara wrote the screenplay. The difference between these is that the story is the basic plot, but the screenplay is the script. So specific things like Goku becoming a kid, going to the demon world, Vegeta getting Super Saiyan 3, and then Goku getting Super Saiyan 4, that was all written by Toriyama. But the actual show itself was written by Kakihara. Super, on the other hand, was given bullet points, and everything else was filled in for both versions of it. So I'd give Super a solid 7 out of 10, but Daima easily gets a 9 out of 10 for this, considering he wrote every facet of the story itself. Number 2, it has to fit in with the pre-established timeline of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z's manga. I don't think either of these shows fitting into the timeline is up for interpretation. They both easily get a 10 out of 10. They fit into the original Dragon Ball manga between chapters 517 and 518. Number 3, if there are obvious retcons to a previous work that ruin the continuity, then it isn't canon. Let's start with Dragon Ball Super. It completely retconned GT in a multitude of ways. It had several new forms, new characters, new world building aspects, and new levels of power never before seen in the series. In GT, Goku's best gauge of power is Majin Buu.
He's powerful, even more powerful than Majin Buu. It's exciting to think about it.
Not Jiren or Beerus. The DBS anime even retcons the movies that came before it, despite Toriyama having more involvement in those. But Daima came after the DBS anime, even though it comes before it in the timeline. And its existence retcons Super. Everyone's really trying to hang on to the fact that both shows have to exist in the same universe, but if you think Daima is a true continuation of DBZ, then these things all fundamentally ruin anything in DBS being considered canon. So what do I think? Well, my opinion is irrelevant. Ultimately, until we get something else, it's up to the individuals to determine what's real and what's an alternate timeline. But if you care about my take, then it's simple. I think Toriyama was using Dragon Ball Daima as a way to write over Dragon Ball Super. Whether you like Dragon Ball Super or not, you have to agree its continuity is a mess. Is it the manga that's canon or the anime? What about the movie? I think Toriyama was beginning to write something new for the series, something that delves deeper into Dragon Ball's roots of adventure and fun and has more of his Toriyama flair, gags, subtle character writing, and finally fleshing out the world building. But unfortunately, we'll probably never know his true intention. It seems like Toyotaro is taking the reins, and I'm pretty excited to see what he has in store. That's pretty much all I have to say about the state of the canon. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing for more videos. If you didn't, consider joining my Discord server in the description to tell me about how wrong I am and how much you hate me and all my videos. That's it. Love you. Bye.